I smelled the smoke before I heard his truck. It was past midnight when the headlights cut across my bedroom window. Gravel crunching under tires in the driveway. He'd be coming back every night. What passed for night during fire season? I got out of bed and pulled on a sweatshirt, padding barefoot to the kitchen. By the time I had the first aid kit out, he was knocking on the back door. Soft, apologetic, like he hated needing this. "It's open," I called. Daniel came in smelling like he always did now. Smoke and sweat and something chemical from the fire. Retardant they dropped from planes. His face was streaked with ash, his jacket torn at the shoulder. He looked exhausted. "How bad?" I asked. "Not bad." Jesse held up his right forearm, and I could see the angry red line even under the soot. "Ember, didn't notice until I was driving back. Sit." He sank into the kitchen chair like his legs had been waiting for permission to give out. I brought the kit to the table and pulled my chair close, angling the light so I could see properly. "This is going to sting," I warned, dampening gauze with saline. "They all sting." I started cleaning the burn, working gently around the edge. His arm was solid under my hands, corded with muscle and mapped with scars. Some old and silvered, some still pink. I'd been doing this for 3 weeks, now cleaning burns, checking for embedded ash, bandaging cuts. I'd learned to read his skin, like a history of every fire he'd ever chased. "You need to be more careful," I said quietly. "Careful doesn't get the shot. The shot's not worth this." He looked at me then, really looked, and something in his expression made my hands still. "Isn't it?" I didn't answer, just kept cleaning, kept my focus on the wound instead of his face. But I could feel him watching me, the weight of his attention as tangible as the heat still radiating from his skin. "Tell me about today," I said. "A ritual we'd fallen into." Him talking while I worked, his voice roughed with smoke and fatigue, describing what he'd seen. The flames and the fleeing, wildlife and the impossible beauty of destruction. "There was a house," he said. "Old ranch, probably 100 years standing. Family was already of age, but I could see pictures still on the walls through the windows. Kids' drawings on the fridge." He paused. I photographed it burning. My hands paused. "Daniel, someone should witness it. Someone should," his voice cracked slightly. "Someone should remember it was there." I set down the gauze and looked at him. Really looked. His eyes were red-rimmed, whether from smoke or something else. I couldn't tell. 3 weeks ago, he'd shown up asking if I'd rent out my guest house during fire season. "A photographer," he'd said. "Documenting the climate crisis." He'd be gone most days. Back late, wouldn't be any trouble.
He hadn't mentioned he'd come back burned. Hadn't mentioned I'd start waiting up, unable to sleep until I heard his truck. Hadn't mentioned that tending his wounds would become the most intimate thing I'd done with another person in the 2 years since my divorce. "You can't save it by photographing it," I said gently. "I know." He looked down at his arm, at my hands still resting against his skin. "But I can't stop trying." I understood that. The compulsion to do something, even when you knew it wasn't enough. I'd moved out here after the divorce for the same reason, like putting distance between myself and the city would somehow put distance between myself and the failure, like isolation was the same as healing. "Lean back," I said. "I need to check for ash." He tilted his head, exposing his neck and collarbone. There was soot smudged along his jaw, disappearing under the collar of his shirt. Without thinking, I reached up to wipe it away with a clean piece of gauze. He went very still. My hand hovered at his cheekbone, the gauze barely touching his skin. We were close, closer than we needed to be for first aid. Close enough that I could see the precise color of his eyes, gray-blue like smoke against sky. "Emma," he said quietly. I pulled back, returning to the burn on his arm. "This needs antibiotic ointment." "Emma, and a nonstick bandage, I think. The regular gauze might." His left hand caught my wrist, gentle but firm. His thumb rested against my pulse point. "Why do you do this?" he asked. "Do what?" "Wait up for me. Take care of this." He gestured at the first aid kit, the careful array of supplies I'd learned to keep stocked. "You don't have to. You're staying on my property. If you get hurt, that's not why." No, it wasn't. I looked at his hand on my wrist, at the way his fingers wrapped almost all the way around, at the new scar on his knuckle and the old one across his thumb, at the way my pulse was hammering against his touch. I can't sleep, I admitted. Not until I know you're back. Not until I know you're... I stopped. Okay? Alive. Something shifted in his expression. He released my wrist slowly, like he was giving me the choice to pull away. I didn't. The first night you came back burned, I said. I thought I could just hand you the kit and let you handle it yourself. But you couldn't reach the one on your shoulder blade. So I helped, and then the next night, you had ash in your hair and I swallowed. I kept finding reasons to touch you. Emma, I know. You're leaving when fire season ends. You've got the next assignment lined up. This is temporary. I know all of that. I started applying the ointment. My movement's automatic now. But for 3 weeks, you've been the only thing that makes me feel like I'm still capable of caring about something, someone. He was quiet while I bandaged his arm, the white gauze stark against his tanned, scarred skin. When I finished taping it down, his hand found mine again. Come here, he said quietly. I'm right here. No, come here. He tugged gently, and I let myself be pulled forward, let myself sink against him. His arms came around me, one hand splaying across my back, the other cupping the base of my skull. I could feel his heartbeat against my cheek, steady and strong. Could smell smoke in his hair and feel the heat of him, like he'd brought the fire back with him. I think about you out there, he murmured against my hair. When it gets bad, when I should pull back, but I want one more shot. I think about you waiting and His arms tightened. I've never had someone waiting. I turned my face into his neck, breathing him in. You have me waiting now. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped around each other in my kitchen at 1 a.m. The first aid kit spread across the table, like evidence of all the ways we'd been moving toward this. When he finally pulled back enough to look at me, his hand came up to cut my jaw. His thumb traced my cheekbone, mirroring what I'd done to him earlier. I should shower, he said. Get all this ash off. Okay. But neither of us moved. Emma, my name in his smoke-rough voice. I'm not good at staying. I've never been good at staying. I know. I don't want to hurt you. Then don't. His forehead came to rest against mine. It's not that simple, isn't it? I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Fire season ends in 6 weeks. You leave. I know that. But maybe, I had to force the words out. Maybe 6 weeks of something real is better than 2 years of nothing. You've had 2 years of nothing? Since the divorce, since I moved out here to be alone. I touched the bandage on his arm carefully. And then you showed up, bleeding and burned, and I remembered what it felt like to what? To matter to someone? To have someone matter to me. He kissed me then, soft at first, questioning, his lips gentle against mine like he was still giving me the chance to pull away. When I didn't, when I kissed him back instead, my hand sliding up to his shoulders, he made a sound low in his throat and deepened it. He tasted like smoke and desperation, like danger in coming home. His hands moved over my back, learning me the way I'd learned his scars. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to mine again. 6 weeks, he said. 6 weeks. And then? I didn't have an answer. Neither did he. The fires got worse. He came back later and later, more burned, more exhausted. I upgraded my first aid supplies, learned to check for smoke inhalation, started keeping ice packs in the freezer and aloe in the fridge. The 4th week, he didn't come back until 4 a.m. I dozed off on the couch waiting. When I heard his truck, I was up and moving before I was fully awake. My body knowing before my brain did that something was different. He came through the door, and I stopped. His shirt was mostly burned away on one side. The skin underneath was blistered, angry red, worse than anything I'd seen yet. His face was gray with pain. Hospital, I said immediately. Now. It's not that bad. Daniel, I need you to look at it. Please, He swayed slightly. I got him to the bathroom, sat him on the closed toilet, and carefully, so carefully, cut away what was left of his shirt. The burn covered his entire right side from ribs to shoulder, 2nd degree at least, maybe 3rd in places. This is beyond me, I said, my voice shaking. This needs a doctor. Just clean it, please. You could get an infection. I pressed my hands to my face. God, Daniel, what were you thinking? I was thinking I needed to get the shot. I don't care about the shot. The words came out sharper than I meant them. I don't care about your photos or your documentation or your next assignment. I care about you not dying in a fire for a picture no one will remember in 6 months. He looked up at me, and there was something raw in his expression, vulnerable in a way that had nothing to do with the burns. You care about me, he said quietly, not a question. Of course I care about you. I've been patching you back together every night for a month. I wait up until you come home. I can't sleep when the winds shift, and I know you're out there. I stopped, but it was too late. The truth was already out there between us. Emma, let me clean the burn. I worked in silence, my hands steadier than my heart. The burn was bad enough that I knew he should see a real doctor. But I cleaned it as best I could, applied antibiotic ointment, covered it with non-stick gauze and tape. When I finished, I started packing up the kit. His hand caught my wrist again, that same gentle hold. I'm sorry, he said. For what? Getting hurt? That's what you do. For making you care. I looked at him then, really looked. At the burns I'd just bandaged and all the scars underneath. At the exhaustion in his face and the smoke still clinging to him. At the man who ran toward fires because he didn't know how to stand still. I don't think you made me do anything, I said quietly. I think I chose this. Chose you. I pulled my wrist free gently. But I can't keep watching you destroy yourself. I'm not. You are. You're burning up out there trying to document burning, and you don't even see it. I stepped back. Fire season ends in 2 weeks. You said 6 weeks of something real. But this isn't real, Daniel. Real is caring enough to not get yourself killed for a photograph. He stood slowly, favoring his burned side. We faced each other across my small bathroom. The first aid kit between us, like everything we hadn't said. I don't know how to be any other way, he admitted. Then maybe you should figure it out before someone gets hurt. Really hurt, Emma. But I was already leaving, walking back to my bedroom, closing the door between us. I heard him stand there for a long moment. Then the back door opened and closed, his footsteps on the gravel path to the guest house. The door shutting, I lay in bed and didn't sleep. Listening for sounds of distress I knew I wouldn't ignore even if I wanted to. The next night, he didn't come back at all. Or the night after. I told myself it was better this way, that we'd been heading somewhere dangerous anyway. That 6 weeks minus 2 wasn't really different from 6 weeks. Minus 0, it was still temporary. Still ending, but I couldn't sleep, couldn't stop imagining all the ways fire could consume a person who ran toward it instead of away. On the third night, I drove toward the burn zone. The sky was orange, even miles away. I could see the glow on the horizon, could smell smoke getting thicker. There were roadblocks, but I knew the back roads, had lived here long enough to know the ways around. I found him standing on a ridge, camera in hand, photographing what looked like the end of the world. The fire was close. Too close. I could feel the heat from where I parked. Daniel! He turned, and the expression on his face was something between shock and inevitability, like he'd been waiting for me to show up, like he'd known I would. You shouldn't be here, he said. Neither should you. It's too close. I know what you need. The shot, the documentation, the proof that you were here. I walked toward him, feeling the heat intensify with every step. But I need you to come home. Emma, I need you to choose. The fire or me. Burning or... My voice broke, or whatever this is between us. He lowered the camera, looked at the fire, then back at me, and I saw something shift in his expression, like a man seeing clearly for the first time through smoke. I don't want to burn anymore, he said quietly. Then come home with me. He did. We didn't talk on the drive back. Just sat close, my hand on his knee, his hand covering mine. When we got to the house, I walked him to the bathroom again, our ritual space now, the place where I'd been putting him back together piece by piece. Let me check the burn, I said. He lifted his shirt carefully. The wound was healing, the angry red fading to pink. I touched it gently, tracing the edge where damaged skin met healthy. It's getting better, I said. Because of you. I looked up at him. I can't be your reason to stop hurting yourself. I know. He caught my hand, pressed it flat against his chest where I could feel his heartbeat. But maybe you can be my reason to start taking care of myself. Fire season ends in 2 weeks. I know. And then you leave. What if I didn't? I went still. What? What if I stayed? Not forever, maybe. I still have to work. But... He pulled me closer, both hands coming to frame my face. What if I came back? Between assignments. Made this home base instead of just another temporary. Stop. You don't do staying. I didn't. But I've never had someone wait up for me before. Never had someone care if I came back burned or didn't come back at all. His thumb traced my cheekbone. I think I could learn, if you'd be patient with me. I kissed him instead of answering, poured everything I'd been holding back into it. All the fear and worry and desperate hope. He kissed me back like I was air, and he'd been holding his breath for too long. When we finally broke apart, I was shaking. 2 weeks, I said. Stay for 2 weeks after fire season ends. No fires, no cameras. Just here, with me. Let me see if you can actually be still. And if I can, then we figure out what comes next. He smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him in weeks. Deal. Fire season ended 6 days later with rain. Daniel stayed. He was restless at first, pacing my property like a caged thing, checking weather reports obsessively. But slowly, day by day, I watched him learn to be still, to sit on the porch without photographing the sunset, to help me with repairs around the property without documenting every moment, to just exist without running toward the next disaster. And every night I checked his burns, watched them heal, the angry red fading to pale pink, then to silver scars that would join all the others. 2 weeks became 3. 3 became a month. I got an offer, he said one morning over coffee. Flooding in Bangladesh. They want me there next week. My heart sank, but I kept my voice steady. Are you going? He was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the property, at the guest house where he'd barely slept since fire season ended, at the main house where we'd spent every night, learning each other without smoke and urgency between us. I am, he said finally, but I'm coming back after 6 weeks, maybe 8. He turned to look at me. If you'll still be here, I'll be here. You'll wait? I thought about all the nights I'd waited during fire season, about learning to care for his wounds, about teaching him to be still and him teaching me to feel again. I'll wait, I said. But Daniel? Yeah? Next time you come back whole. Not burned, not bleeding, whole. He crossed to where I stood, pulling me into his arms. I'll try. Promise me. No matter what. That's enough. It had to be. He left a week later. I stood in the driveway and watched him go, and when his truck disappeared over the hill, I went back inside to clean out the first aid kit. But I didn't put it away. Just restocked it, kept it ready in the bathroom cabinet, just in case. Because loving someone who runs toward danger means keeping bandages ready and learning to wait, means trusting they'll choose to come home even when the next fire calls. And when his truck pulled into my driveway 8 weeks later, him whole and healed and home, I knew we'd both learned something about what it means to stop burning long enough to let someone in.